We've got a question from an online listener
Yeah.
who says, if self-validated intimacy and self-assured happiness is the goal, then how should I think about the role of a partner? Ooh, I get it. Kind of like, why bother? If my happiness is an inside
Yeah.
job, if I'm whole and complete, as we say in some of our trainings, and it's really my job to monitor and generate my own happiness, then why bother with all that
Yeah.
relationship stuff, all that potential hurt, and
Yeah.
oh,
And self-validated intimacy is really this idea. It's a psychologist Schnarch's idea, really about what is it for me to be willing to be open, even if I might get hurt, and able to really validate and affirm myself there. So it's this idea. I want you to affirm me. I want you to agree with me. I want you to be there for me. But I'm not going to stop being who I am if I don't trust you. I'm
Right.
going to be an open book, and
Right.
it's great if you're what I want you to be, or if you reflect me back how I want you to. But really, the point is, I want you to know me,
Right.
and I have to risk in order to do that.
Right.
So I think this is. I think it's a beautiful concept, and I think this is a beautiful question.
Yeah, so I think what the question is saying and it's asking is like, the job of my partner is not to complete me, to affirm me, to whatever. And I think as
Yeah.
we think about relationships broadly here at the Wright Foundation, that's definitely the terms we look at. It's like the purpose of a relationship is to learn and grow. And I've often thought of it in these terms, like, why are there 6 billion people in the world if I'm not meant to somehow be bumping up against
Yeah.
them and changing as a result of my interactions with them?
Yeah.
I don't learn and grow in a vacuum. I learn and grow by encountering other people, dealing with the emotions that brings up, and that's how I really know who I am and what I believe in by being
Yeah.
with other people.
It's really the opposite of soulmates in a lot of ways. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not like, here I am this shape and here's another person and we're looking to meet up and match perfectly so
Completely.
that I'm completed.
Right.
It's like this picture of like, we're all just bumping, and
Well,
there are
I-
many people, many options, and a
Yeah.
lot to learn.
I actually hold it as more of a value in my relationships to have somebody that's going to crack my false self.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in a partner who doesn't challenge me. I'm in this situation right now where it's like there's someone I've established that I'm compatible with in a lot of ways, and not in some ways. And as we're figuring out what the relationship is, it's like I like this a lot more now that he's telling me where I'm full of crap.
Yeah.
And where I am hurting him. It's
Yeah.
like the things he's pointing out to me really are things that I need to be working on. They're my dark side. They're things I haven't like brought to light in any other relationship in a while, let's say. Not never, but if it's just me in and of myself, and yeah, it's true. I'm complete. My life is great. There's nothing I need necessarily,
Yeah.
and I yearn to be with someone who's going to be, who's going to bother to get to know me
Yeah.
on that level, as you said, with the
Yeah.
self-validated intimacy.
Yeah, and this idea of that false self, the false self is the idea of myself I present to the world. It's
Yeah.
if you picture like sort of a perfect shell, the idea that I want people to see. On the one hand, you might think that I would want people to, interact with me at that level so that they see and reflect back at me what I want them to. But what we find is really that it gets old, it gets
Yeah.
boring, it's not fulfilling and deeply satisfying. So what we're after is sometimes I can't see my false self. I can't see what it is that I'm trying to reflect. But when we have that level of really deep, genuine contact with another person is oftentimes when they're when they're questioning us, or when something they're doing is like, it pokes in a way that's like, that's a way I hadn't thought of this before. That's a way I
Yeah.
hadn't seen myself before.
Yeah.
So that's what we're after, is rather than finding a kind of person where it matches perfectly and everything's comfortable, we're looking at, as you were saying, Kate, the bumping up against
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
So that we might both get a little bit bruised, but in the
Yeah.
end, it's better, and we know ourselves and each other better.
Right. I think the other piece to mention here is also from the realm of psychology, there's attachment theory. Murray Bowen and company have written on that. And from what I understand of it, he and they talk about attachment as what happens between a parent and a child, usually a mother if she's the primary caregiver, where the child knows that they can always kind of cling to mom's leg or the folds of her skirts, as they said it in the 50s, 60s, whenever attachment theory was gaining ground.
Yeah.
And I have experienced my romantic partnerships that way.
Yeah.
And that is that's a possible goal of a partnership, is to create that secure base with someone as a place from which you can explore the world.
Yeah.
That my relationship with a partner or significant other would give me confidence to say the things I'm afraid to say. That we can go head to head on things and the world doesn't collapse and the relationship doesn't crumble, gives me greater strength and flexibility and just like confidence to deal with situations at work where I'm trying to say things that I thought were unsayable. It's like in the ideal, I think our romantic partners should be like a playground for how we engage with the world, where you should feel the most safe and
Right.
at the same time we feel the most at risk. So it's
Yeah.
a great like testing ground for, am I going to be who I know I am becoming, who I want to be in this relationship? And if I can do it here, I can probably do it pretty darn anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's there's that bumping up that we're talking about, but there's also that sense of comfort. I like, for example, I don't, for me, arguing, debating is a challenge. It's
Yes.
not something that's comfortable or I particularly enjoy. So there's a certain amount of that I do want in my relationships because it challenges me. On the other hand, I'm not going to end up in a relationship with a debater who just wants to debate, because that's not going to give me that attachment, that sense of a
Right.
comfort. Maybe it would for some people. It doesn't for me.
It would have based on my attachment schema.
Yeah.
I grew up as the child of a debate coach, so love meant you debate.
Right.
That's how you care about people,
absolutely.
is you debate a point. So.
Yeah, so I'm just wanting to clarify, bumping up against each other doesn't just mean arguing.
Right.
Bumping
Right.
up really means getting to know each other on that deeper level. So for
Right.
me, it's maybe like 10% arguing. That's about as much as I want right now, but it's enough to sort of shake me out of my my false self, and still provide that attachment that I'm looking for.
Right. And there's a whole lot more to say about how much affirmation we need in a relationship versus criticism.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not to just say that we're trying to chip away and that's the only purpose of a relationship. I think the only other thing I want to say on this is that just talking about the idea of who we want to become gets at the fact that we really have a different idea of happiness around here. For some people, happiness means peace and quiet and I'm fine as I am, thank you very much. For us, happiness is, and the research supports this, the people who are happiest are people who know that they can change their life situation. People who know they can learn and grow and have opportunities and tools to do so. And so happiness doesn't just mean I'm completely comfortable with who I am. Come join me in that and mesh with me that way, in the soulmate way. Happiness means I am a person who's becoming and I choose someone who will be with me in my becoming.
Yeah, absolutely. And our emotional curriculum on top of that, says that we all experience hurt, fear, anger, sadness, and joy. And really, from our vantage point, it's not just the joy that's to be valued. At the seeking a happy life, people say that, it's thrown around a lot, but we don't want to say that happiness, one out of 5 moments where we're feeling happy, that's the only thing to be valued. Right. I've experienced the value in sadness, hurt, fear, anger, all of those emotions. So we really look towards more of a satisfying life, a fulfilling life. And really that includes sort of the whole realm of human experience.
Yeah.
And joy is beautiful, but it's not everything.